Okay, cool. Let's quickly check. Are we live? Are you guys able to hear me? Everyone, just quickly drop a yes or no in the chat if you are able to hear me. Everyone, just drop a quick yes or no if I'm audible. Yep. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Just allow me a minute, guys. Okay. Cool. How's everyone? How's everyone doing? I'm audible. Sure, Darshan. I will check. I will check. How are you guys? How are you guys doing? How's everyone? How's everyone doing? Sir, I'm from Saudi Arabia. Middle Classic. Can you please mail us at algocamproot@gmail.com? We will try to help you there. How's everyone? कैसे हो सब लोग? How's everyone doing? Great. Aman says great. What about rest of the people? Okay. So I thought let's have one more live stream only. Last week we did two live streams where we talked about kind of like basics of WebRTC, right? I'm not sure how many of you guys have watched that. We talked about how to like we set up our basic client and server like basic boilerplate apps, and we actually in the second session we took a relatively deeper dive into how exactly the architecture of overall WebRTC as a protocol works internally. What is a stun server? What is a turn server? All of that thing we actually discussed, right? Hello Nandini, how are you? Great. Akash, how is it? How are you feeling overall? We have completed React.js. Suggest me what to do next. uh, See if you have learned state management. If not, then maybe using Redux for state management can be good. Try to dive into TypeScript with React, or maybe you can start with Next as well. Uh, sure, Middle Classic. I'll check. I'll check what is the status on your query. Don't worry. Okay, cool. So in this session, we'll be having again kind of like a quick chit chat kind of a thing. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, what I'll try to do is I probably will complete it in this session, or maybe we'll need one more session. So we'll see how things actually go. But we'll try to start coding a MERN stack based, you can say, video calling app using WebRTC altogether. Does that point make sense, everyone? Ujjwal says, Sir, I'm also making project with my own, but facing problems in data modeling and architecture. Ujjwal, I would say join some communities, maybe discuss with people what is the problem with your design, what can be improved in your design, and then maybe things will start working for you. Okay. Sure, Abhishek. I don't think आज के ही session में screen sharing कर पाएंगे, but maybe we can have one more session. So that should not be an issue altogether. Make sense, guys? Sure, Rahul. I'll check. I guess the team was out for a day, so that's why maybe they have not replied. I'll ask the team to reply today. No problem, Rahul. Okay, cool. Let's start, guys. Let's start. If you have any questions, just bombard me your questions in the chat. I'll be happy to answer all of them. Right. Meanwhile, what we'll do, we'll try to understand the coding procedure for our WebRTC application altogether. Make sense? Shall we start? Okay. So we already made basic client and server boilerplate. If you guys want to have access to that, I'll share you the GitHub URL. Just give me a minute. Okay. In case you don't have access to that, I'll share it with you. Okay. So you can go to my GitHub. You can go to my GitHub. Okay. On my GitHub, if you go to repositories and if you go here, you can see video calling app frontend and video calling app backend. These are the two repos that we are maintaining for the client side and the server side code. Make sense, everyone? भैया बैकएंड जॉब्स के लिए नोड.जेएस सही रहेगा या स्प्रिंग बूट? व्हाट इज बेटर? आई बिलीव एनी ऑफ द टू शुड बी गुड. अगर तुम्हें जावा ऑलरेडी आता है, इफ यू ऑलरेडी नो जावा, you can start with spring boot. If you are like a non-java person, then both of the choices should be more or less equal for you. Okay, cool. Ram ram bhai, ram ram, kya hal chal? Okay, cool. So I'll share the link of these two repos in the chat. Okay, feel free to clone them, and like I'll be pushing the code for today also in these repos only. Okay, so you can check it out. Okay, cool. So come back. I'll show you what is the status of both the repos. I'll show you the status of both the repos. Okay. And if you remember, we talked about PeerJS as well. So I asked you guys to actually download the local server for PeerJS, right? So we'll turn up that one as well. So let's open both of them in VS Code. So this is the server code, and let's open the client code as well. Okay. So you can see this is the client side code and this is the server side code altogether. Cool. And I'll go to CD client, CD front end, and I'll say npm run dev. Let's turn up the client side server. And here also, I'll say npm run dev. We'll turn up the server side server as well. Make sense? Both the servers are up and running. Can you guys see that? One-to-many, gamer will see one-to-many as well. That's why I have a backend, so that the backend can actually collate the request from each and everyone and act as a SJP. Okay, so that is something that we are going to use. Make sense? So just give me 1 second. Okay. Cool. Now, if you remember, I talked about PeerJS. Okay. I'll open this here. So we'll open PeerJS server. Okay. Remember, I asked you guys to clone the PeerJS server, right? So you don't even need to technically clone it. You just need to install it as a global package. And then you can actually use this particular command. You can actually use this particular command and the PeerJS server will be up. We don't need it immediately. But again, like after setting up a basic socket project altogether, we will need that. I have already installed it. So if you run this like this, you can see on port 9000, a brand new PeerJS server will be altogether ready. If you guys don't know what is PeerJS and everything, please watch my last live stream. There we talked about all the internal architecture of WebRTC. Okay. No, Abhishek, I'll upload them. Don't worry. Okay. Make sense, guys? So please do clone this particular part as well, that you have the local PeerJS server also up and running. Make sense? Now, can anybody tell me what is PeerJS going to help us with? I talked about that also in the last class. What is PeerJS going to help us with? Anyone? We talked about the fact that why do you need PeerJS altogether? Sure, I'll accept your LinkedIn request, but let's stick to the topic first, guys. Do you remember what are the different things we actually talked about in the last class? Okay, not a lot of people remember that. Guys, we talked about the SDP. Remember the packets that we have to transfer, ICE candidates. Whenever two clients have to set up both of them as a connection, we have to offer an SDP, then you have to accept an SDP. Altogether, what is an SDP? Session description protocol, signaling servers, right? Remember? Right? So we talked about all of these, right? So make sure you check that, or don't worry, let's set up a few things around the project and then maybe I can help you revise all of those things as well. Okay, cool. So let me show you what's the current status of both the repos. If you go to the server side, you can see on the server side, we don't have much. We just have set up a very basic Express.js application. And can you see, I also installed socket.io. So I have a basic IO connection also up and running. Make sense? And we have a server config file on the client side. On the client side, if you go here, we have a basic app.txt, which is as of now currently doing nothing. And there is a simple socket context that we already prepared. Remember all of this? Everyone? We prepared a basic socket context as well. Okay. Tailwind and everything we have already set up. Okay. So if I go to localhost 5173, you can see a basic plain app is coming up. We have installed Daisy UI for the UI, I would say, elements altogether. Make sense? This is the current situation of our application. Okay. And you can see we have a basic socket provider. What is this socket provider? You can see I have a basic socket server running at localhost 5500. And what I do is I'm creating a socket context. If for that particular context, we need a provider. So in that provider, so that we can access this context, we are creating this socket context provider, inside which the value property is going to take this socket object. What is this socket object? This socket object is the connection object that has been prepared from the client side so that it can connect to the backend WebSocket. Make sense? And the moment you do that, can you see it says new user connected on the backend? This is the backend server up and running. Okay, if I refresh, it will have one more log. User disconnected and then a new user connected. Why these logs are actually coming up? Because on the server side, we have a io.on connection. So we have set up an event that the moment a brand new connection from socket.io has been set up, it will do a console.log of new user connected. And the moment that same socket connection is disconnected, then this is the event of disconnect. We are going to console.log user disconnected. Basic socket setup is up and running. Can I say that, guys? Anybody having any questions with this much? Anybody having any questions with this much? All good? All good? Okay, cool. Now, let's do one thing. Okay, what we are going to do is, if you carefully remember, then we have also set up cores. So that's why the front end and back end are connecting without any issue. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make a new folder, handlers. And here we are going to write all of our socket handler so that we can have segregated code. I don't want to pollute my main index.ts file altogether. So what I'll do is I'll create a new file. I'll call it as room handler.ts. Okay, so this is going to be our room handler.ts. Just a second, let me rename it. Room handler.ts. Okay, now inside this room handler.ts, what we are going to do is we are going to write some logic so that whenever a new socket connection is actually set up, then we can actually join that socket connection to a particular room. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay, now if like this is a basic concepts in socket that you can prepare one room. Inside one room, multiple socket connections can be there, right? And then you can send messages to all the socket connections in that particular room, right? So that's what we are going to build up here. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to say const room handler. Okay, now this room handler is actually going to take a socket object. And what will be the type of this socket object? The type of this socket object is going to come from socket.io. Okay, so this is going to be one new socket object, or you can say one new socket connection that has been prepared. Okay, and that's it. Okay, and we are going to export this room handler. We are going to export default room handler. Okay, now inside this room handler function, we are going to do, or we are going to handle what should happen whenever a new socket connection is prepared and how it should join a particular room. Make sense? I didn't create server 2 times. This is only the first time we are creating the server. If you're talking about the PeerJS is going to act as your signaling server. Okay, this node server is not your signaling server. Okay, cool. Okay, now let's write some code in this room handler. So what we are going to do is we are going to write a function const, and we can say it as create room. Okay, this is going to be a function for us. And here what we are going to do is we are going to create a brand new room. Now every room has a unique ID. Every room has a unique ID altogether. So you can use some random number to prepare a unique ID altogether. Or what you can do is you can use some libraries. For example, there is a library called as UUID npm. Okay, you can use this library to actually create some unique UUID, I would say, strings. So let's install this. Let's install this for our node server. Okay, and we also need types for UUID. So I'll say npm install @type/UUID. Okay. Ideally, I should have added it as dev dependency only. So let's do one thing. I'll just quickly uninstall and add it as a dev dependency. npm install -d types UUID. Okay, let's turn up the backend server again. Okay, server is up, looks good. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to import UUID v4, right? As or you can say v4 as, there is v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. Okay, and what we can do is you can use this UUID v4 function and you can create a brand new room ID. So I'll say room ID is equals to UUID v4. Okay, this will be our unique room ID in which multiple connections will exchange data. Got it, guys? So what we are going to do, we are going to prepare a unique ID altogether. And this unique room ID, we will, using this unique room ID, we are going to prepare a brand new room. Brand new room. Inside that room, multiple connections will be there. Now, we talked about this particular thing, that what is our Node.js server going to act as? Remember, PeerJS server that we are running here, PeerJS server is going to act as our signaling server. What is the Node.js server going to act as? What is the Node.js server going to act as? Anyone? Okay, you guys almost forgot everything. Guys, what is the Node.js server going to act as? Is this our signal? Okay, let's simplify the question. Is the Node.js server the signaling server? Stun? No. We are not. We don't need we don't need to write our own stun server, right? We don't need to write our own stun server. We can use the already present stun servers altogether, isn't it? We don't need our stun server, guys. PeerJS has configured some basic stun servers, and if you want, you can, when you are creating a new PeerJS object. So I'll show you the PeerJS library. Okay, npm. So when you're creating a new PeerJS object altogether, then you can actually pass what stun servers. If you need a custom stun server, you can actually pass it in the constructor altogether. You can read the API reference altogether. It must be present somewhere. You can see. Can you see when we will be creating a brand new PeerJS object? Then if you want, you can pass your custom stun servers if you want to connect from a custom stun server altogether. Is this point making sense? Make sense, guys? That if you want to configure some custom stun servers, you can actually pass a configuration object while creating a brand new PeerJS object. Okay, cool. Let's come back. Okay. So here. Now what we are going to do, we have a brand new room ID. Now what I can do is, I will use this socket object and I will say socket.join and we'll pass the room ID. Okay. So what will happen is this socket is going to join a brand new room with this particular room ID altogether. Okay. And we are going to say socket.emit. Socket.emit. Now from the server side, we are going to emit an event room created. Okay. And we are going to pass the room ID altogether. So let's see what is happening there. Now, in the second step, what I have done is we will make the socket connection enter a new room, and here we will emit an event from server side that socket connection has been added to a room. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay, you will see why we are actually emitting this event. You will see in a moment that why we are emitting this event. But I believe this point must be making sense to everyone, that what are these two statements going to do. Got it? Cool. Now, because now just think about it. If let's say 5 people are there who want to do a video call, what they will do is they are going to use PeerJS for the signaling server. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them connect to my node server for the SFU, single forwarding unit, right? Because WebRTC is a peer-to-peer connection. If 5 people want to do a video call, either they have to create a mesh that everyone is connected to every other one, or they can connect to one single SFU, single forwarding unit. And this node server is going to act as our single forwarding unit. That's why I'm asking every connection to join a particular room so that we can relay the data from here. Are you able to get this point? Everyone, say a yes or no in the chat. Why do we need this room? Right? We talked about SFUs, right? Any questions? Any questions, anyone? Okay, cool. Now we are going to do one more thing. We are going to create one more function, const join room. Right, we're going to write one more function. All this will do is console.log new room join. Okay, and now just think about it. Now these are two functions. We have not called these two functions, right? We have not called these two functions. We need to call these functions at some point of time, right? When we will call this function? When to call the above two functions? When to call the above two functions, guys? So what we are going to do is we will call the above two functions when the client will emit events to create room and join room. Okay, so client will tell us that, hey, create a brand new room. Hey server, please create a brand new room. And hey server, take this socket connection and make it join this particular room. Are you able to get this point? So I'll say socket dot on create room. Okay, socket dot on create room. We are going to call the create room callback function, and socket dot on will say join room, and we'll call the callback function join room. Okay, so when our front end, our client side is going to emit an event, please create a room. Now, room creation logic exists on the server side. Client cannot automatically create a room, but client can actually send a socket event that, hey socket server, please create a room for us so that all of the connections can actually join, and then the video call can happen in that particular room. So what I'll do is, the moment I will get a create room request, what I'll do is I'll create a brand new room. I will create a brand new room and then make this socket join that particular room. And once the socket has joined the room, now I need to tell the front end that, hey front end, you wanted me to create a room and make this socket join that. I have done that. And how we will signify this to the front end? We will signify this to the front end by emitting an event room created. Are you able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat, everyone. Okay, the moment I emit the events from the front end, you will, like, this will start making sense to all of you. But is this point making sense, like what we are probably trying to do here? Okay, cool. Now this room handler is present in a different file. What we need to do is, the moment a brand new connection has been set up, what we are going to do is, we are going to call our room handler so that this socket connection can be added by that particular room. Can I say that? Okay. So this room handler function we need to call, right? So what I'll do is, the moment a brand new connection has been set up, I will say room handler and I will pass the socket connection. Okay. Pass the socket connection to the room handler for room creation and joining. Make sense? No, Abhishek, you will see why it will not. Let's write the front end logic as well, and then you will realize why it will not. Okay, cool. Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, let's come to the client side. Now I'm on the client side. On the client side, let's do one thing. I'll create a new folder, components. And I'm going to create a new component. I'll create a new file and I'll say create room.tsx. Okay. What we are going to do is, we are going to create a brand new room. Okay. How do we create a brand new room? Let's see. So we are going to say const create room. Okay. And what will be the type? This is going to be a React functional component. Okay. And what we are going to return is, we are going to return, let's say, a simple kind of like a button. Okay. We are going to return a simple button. And here we will say start a new meeting in a new room. Okay. Start a new meeting in a new room. Make sense? And then we'll say export default create room. Okay. Let's rectify the spelling. Okay. A very simple plain button I have created. The moment anybody will press this button, what will happen is, it is going to create a brand new room for us. Okay. Now, how it will create a brand new room? This is the client side. It needs to send the server a signal that, hey server, please create a room. Okay. So let me show you. So let's open this. Okay. Let's scroll down. So now what's going to happen is, from my client side, this is, let's say, our client side, and let's say this is the server side. Okay. This is the server side. Now from the client side, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to emit an event. Create room. From the client side, I'm going to emit an event create room. Are you able to get this point? And the server is going to collect that event. And what the server will do when it will collect that event? The moment it collects an event create room, it will call the create room function. Can I say that? So the server is going to be responsible for creating the room. So server will create the room. And the moment server has created the room, what it will do is, it will signify the client back that, can you see, that the room has been created. So now the server will emit an event. Room created. Are you guys able to get this point? What is happening here? Okay. So we are going to first of all signify from the client that, hey server, please create a room, and the server is going to then create the room. Now, how do we signify it from the client? You can see it's a plain button, but if you remember, we have a socket context. Inside this socket context, we have the socket object. Don't you think? So let's use this context, right? And how do we use a context? You can say socket is equals to use context. Make sense? And what we are going to do is, we are going to use the room context altogether. Okay. Now, if you carefully see, I have not exported this context. Can you see I have not exported this context? Can I say that? I should do it, right? I should export this context. So I'll say export socket context. And here I will say socket context. Make sense, everyone? Okay. And what I'll do is, the moment we will click this button, I'm going to emit an event, or I would say, I'll say const init room. Okay, init room. And we are going to say socket dot emit. What event we are going to emit? Create room. Make sense? And when we are going to call this function, we are going to call this function on the click of the button. On click, we are going to call init room. How many of you guys are able to get this point? Simple architecture we have set up. The moment anybody will click this button, wherever I will use this button will be activated. And the only purpose of this button is to make sure that a brand new room has been created. Are you guys able to get this point? Okay, let's give this button some classes so that this button doesn't look ugly. Okay, let's do that. We'll say btn, let's say secondary. Save it. Make sense, guys? Is this point making sense? Say yes or no in the chat. Fairly simple thing. Fairly simple thing. Okay. Okay, cool. Now, let's do one thing. On my app.tsx, let's have this button. Let's have this button. So I'll say create room. Create room. Okay. Let's come to the front end. Okay. Can you see? Start a new meeting in a new room. Can you see this button? Okay. I want to bring this button maybe in the center. Okay. So let's do one thing. Or let's keep it as it is. We'll later introduce React router. So we'll handle all of that. So the moment I click on this button and let me inspect, go to console. Okay. And here also on the server side, you can see, let's see what will come up. The moment I say start a new meeting in a new room. Okay. This has not connected. 1 second. Let's see if the messages are going up or not. Okay. So let's go to network. Let's go to WebSocket. 1 second. Command Shift R. And let's click on it again. Okay. 1 second. This is not going. A new user connected. This is good. This is good. And room handler socket. Let's see what is the event coming up from here. Create room. Let's see if the spelling is correct or not. Oh, my bad. 1 second. What is the context we are returning? Okay, socket it is. Socket it is. So we should say create room, save it. Let's see. Console.log, initializing a request to create a room. To create a room altogether. Save it. Okay. And let's go to the console. Okay, initializing a request. This is sending a request. Oh, my bad. My bad. 1 second. Have we added the provider? Oh, we already have the provider added. Can you see, Abhishek? We already have the provider added. No worries on that part. Can you see we have the provider added already? Can you see? Okay. Let's quickly check what is coming inside this socket object. Let's quickly check what is coming inside this socket object. Are we getting the proper connection object or not? Okay. So it says connected. It says connected. That's not a problem. And let's see. In the socket context, if we quickly check, so let's see. I guess here we might have to do some configuration. Okay, let's do a bit of configuration. I'll say with credentials to false. Okay, and I'll add transports. Just a second. Let's see if it works in that case. As let's say polling and WebSocket. WebSocket. Save it. The request is not coming on the backend. Let's see why the request is not coming on the backend. We have registered the room handler. That is good. Room handler socket. Okay. And socket.on create room. Okay. Oh, we have not. Oh, my bad. We have not actually added any logs. We have not added any logs. Probably that's why it's not coming. It must be already hitting, but we have not added any logs. Let's say console.log room created with ID, room ID. Okay. I have not added any logs. Probably that's the issue. Let's click on it again. And you can see things are coming up. No problem. No problem. Things are actually coming up. No problem. Okay. So room has been created with this particular ID. Can I say that, everyone? Everyone say yes or no in the chat. Okay. So room was getting created. Actually, I didn't log anything, so it was not showing anything on the server side. Make sense? So I'll just refresh. I'll just refresh if you want. You can see the moment I refresh, a new user has been connected. And the moment I click on this, a brand new room has been created as well. Make sense? Make sense, everyone? Okay. Now, don't you think the moment a brand new room has been created, what we should do is we should technically redirect our user to that particular room? Don't you think? The moment a brand new room has been created, we should technically redirect our user to that particular room. Can I say that? Is this point making sense, everyone? So for page redirection, what do we need? We need React router. Okay. So I'll come to the client side. I'll say npm install React router DOM. Got it, guys? Everyone? We're going to install React router DOM. Okay. Krishna, we are coding our WebRTC application. We already discussed the theory and the internal architecture, and now this is the time to actually start coding it as well. Okay. Anybody having any questions? Why do we need React router DOM, guys? Anybody having any questions? Why do we need the React router DOM? Okay, cool. Now let's turn up the server again. npm run dev. Okay. Now for React router DOM to work, what do we have to do is we have to prepare the browser router and then our routes. Okay. So let's go here. Let's go to app.tsx. Sorry, main.tsx. You can see we already have the socket provider. Okay. What we are going to do is we are going to wrap it with browser router. So that React router DOM is available throughout our application. Save it here. We don't need this. Save it. Okay. So now you can see browser router has been added. Okay. It is too tough to build a native video calling app. We are using third-party service such as 100 millisecond for video meeting services. No, Shek, we are actually coding it. See, when you use third-party services, then it's not like just the video calling feature you need. Generally, the third-party services provide you some extra features, extra functionalities as well. Right here, you can see I'm preparing a end-to-end video meeting service kind of a thing from scratch. We are not using any paid service altogether or any third-party service altogether. What we are using is we are using PeerJS for our, if you remember, signaling server. Okay, cool. Coming back, we come to app.ts, and now here what we should do is we should say routes. Okay, inside routes we should have individual routes. So the first route that we are going to prepare for path slash should be, let's say, a home route. Okay, so let's create a home component altogether, guys. Okay, inside the home component we'll be just having that particular button that we have just created, right? So let's have that as a home page for our application, and then we can actually prepare one more page for the rooms. So I'll create a new file, and let's not create it in components. Let's say new folder pages. Let's create pages. Inside pages, let's create a new file, home.tsx. Okay, and inside home.tsx, just basic stuff, const home. Okay, what will be the type? It will be of type React functional component. Okay, and what we are going to do is we are going to return some basic, I would say, styling. Okay, I'll style it, but for a moment, let me actually add the create room component as well. And then we'll say export default home. Save it. Okay, this is the home component, and I'm going to attach this home component here. Save it. Okay, now we don't need the create room component here. And if you see on the home page, we have this home component coming up. Okay, let's style this home component a bit. Okay, so what we can say is that let's say height should be the 100 viewport height. Okay, and we can allow flex By default, we can keep the flex as row, align items as center, and justify content as center. The moment you do this, can you see now the button is absolutely in the center? Okay. Can you see the button is now absolutely in the center? Now, what do we want? The moment we click on this button, we want to redirect ourselves to a brand new component. Okay. So let's do that. And don't you think that room component should be having a unique room ID as well? Yes or no? Right? Room component will be having a unique room ID as well. Can I say that? So let's do that. So I'll create a new route path. I'll create a new route path. Okay. I'll say path is equals to /room /colon ID. Are you able to get this point? We are going to have a room ID and the element we are going to set as a room component. Let's create a room.tsx. Room.tsx. Okay. I'll say const room. Again, a React dot functional component. Okay. For now, I'm going to just, let's say, return room. Okay. And I'll say export default room. Make sense? And what I'll do is I'll attach the room component here. Save it. Make sense, everyone? Make sense? So now in your app, if you go to the URL, /room/123, can you see now we are inside the room component altogether? Say yes or no in the chat, everyone. Basic stuff. So what I'm going to do is the moment anybody clicks the button, we are going to redirect them to this particular room component. Are you able to get this point? Is this point making sense, guys? Everyone say yes or no in the chat. Okay, cool. Now let's write the logic for this redirection. Now I will come back to my socket provider. Auto import का shortcut क्या है? मैं तो control space, like in my machine it's control space. You can configure it in your machine altogether. Okay, cool. Now with this socket provider, what we can do is the moment every time this socket provider loads, we can add a use effect. Okay, we can add a use effect here on the first load of the component. Okay, cool. And we are going to use the use navigate hook. What is this use navigate hook going to do? Will help us to programmatically handle navigation. Okay, cool. Let's squeeze this up. Okay, cool. Now what we are going to do is here we are going to say, can you see we have access to the socket object? We have access to the socket object here. Can I say that? This whole socket object we have access to. Now here we can have event listeners. Can I say that? We can have event listeners. Now, can I say what is the current architecture? The current architecture is that the client emits a create room event. Server collects that event, creates the room, and then server emits an event that, hey client, the room that you wanted has been created. So server is going to emit the room created event. Now, what the client will do is, the moment client collects this particular event, what it is going to do is, it is going to redirect the user to the room. Can I say that? The moment our client collects this room created event from the server side, it's going to create a brand new room. And if the brand new room has been created, let's redirect our user as well. Can I say that? Yes or no in the chat? Okay. So we can write a function const, let's say we can say enter room. And how do we enter a room? Very simple. We'll say navigate to /room, and then we need a room ID as well, right? So this enter room function is going to expect a room ID. And what will be the type of room ID? Guys? It is of type string. So room ID is of type string. Okay. So we are going to say, let's have a backtick based string /room $room ID. Okay. Okay. Cool. And let's have this as string. Okay. Now, when should this function be executed? This function should be executed when the socket receives the room created event. In that case, this function should be executed. Can I say that? Everyone, drop a quick yes or no in the chat. Drop a quick yes or no in the chat. So we will, I would say, transfer the user to the room page when we collect an event of room created from server. Make sense? And can you see server is emitting this event the moment it has created a brand new room. Got it? सही लग रहा है? Everyone. Okay, let's try to see this. Let's try to see this, everyone. Okay, so let's do one thing. In the room component, when we are actually coming to the room component, okay, let's try to access the ID. How can we access the ID? I can say const ID, and here we can again use the use params from React router DOM. And let's say this is the room with this particular ID. Make sense, everyone? Okay, so let's go back. Let's refresh. You can see start a new meeting in a new room. The moment I hit this, can you see I have been redirected to this particular room? This is the room ID. And if you see the server side, can I say this same room was actually created? Yes or no? Say lag raha hai? Everyone. So let me repeat the steps. So what happened was our client on the client, what will happen is the user clicks the button. Okay. The moment user clicks the button, what will happen is the client is going to emit an event that please server, please create a room for us. The server is going to collect the request, create a room, and then server is going to emit another event that, hey client, this room has been created for you. The moment client collects that event, client will redirect the user to the room component. Can I say that? Yes or no? What is this redirection going to tell us? This redirection tells us that a brand new user has actually entered the room page. Okay. So the last thing that I would like to do is, I will say use effect. And every time you load this component, for the first time. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the socket from the context. Const socket is equals to use context and socket context. And here we are going to say socket dot emit. What's the event name on the server side? Joined room. Let's call it joined room. That looks better. Joined room and joined room. Save it. Okay. So let's emit an event. Joined room. Make sense? Okay. And we can do one thing. We can actually emit this room ID as ID get. Okay. Save it. Now, why I'm doing this? Just think about it. When the client collected the event, that a brand new room has been created, it will redirect the user to that particular room. Can I say that? Okay. right? Now, if other people have to join this room has been already created. Can I say that? If let's say this is the user number 1 which has joined this room. Now, if other people have to join this room, what they can do is they don't need to create a brand new room, right? A room has been already created by somebody. Let's say you initiate the web call. Let's say you are having a WhatsApp group. On that WhatsApp group, you initiate the call. That means you have created a room already. Other people can directly join the room. So what other people can do is they can just have this particular link and they can just directly join it all together. Yes or no? They don't need to create a room. They can just come to this particular room directly, right? So the moment anybody comes to this room, maybe the creator of the room or the other joiners, every time we need to signal the user that, hey, a brand new user has joined the particular room. Bro, backend cohort कब तक complete होगा? On the backend cohort, we are going on a good place. मैं timeline अगर तुम्हें बताऊं तो we are looking at a timeline around June, July. But let's see. मतलब अगर किसी ने कोई extra content expect किया या किसी ने request किया तो generally we add it. तो उसके आसपास क्योंकि projects are going on the good pace. मतलब हमने Azure वगैरह cover कर लिया है, Cosmos cover कर लिया है, BullMQ, Redis cover कर रहे हैं. तो things are going on a good pace. Okay, cool. Sure, Hari, don't worry. Guys, do you realize why on the load of this room component, I am emitting this event? Emitting this event so that either creator of room or joinee in the room, anyone is added, the server knows that new people have been added to this one, to this one. Make sense, everyone? Do you realize why I'm doing this socket.emit? So let's do it. Let's do it. So let's close everything. Okay. And let's go back. Let's refresh on the backend also. Let's come up like this. And the moment I say start a new meeting room, you can see it has joined a particular room and room has been created and you can see new room joined. Where it is coming from? This is coming from here. So you can say new user has joined room and let's print the room ID. Okay. So we'll say room ID. What will the type of room ID? It will be of type string. Okay. Save it. What happened? It says value is never used. Why is that? One second. Let me redo it. Some spelling mistake. Okay, so we are going to collect a room ID altogether. Okay, and the type is going to be room ID of type string. Okay, cool. This looks good. Save it. Let's try it again. Refresh. Start a new meeting room. And can you see a new user has joined this particular room? Now, anybody who uses this link, the moment I open it, can you see a new user has joined this same room? Now more people can join this particular room altogether. So our room preparation has been done. I will commit this much amount of code, and then maybe we can take up some doubts. Room creation logic added. Okay, and git add all room creation logic added. There we go. Make sense, everyone? Okay, server is up. Any questions? I have made a web video calling app with WebRTC and Simple Peer. Is it good project? Yes, it's definitely a good project. Google में भी इतने लंबे लंबे comments लिखते हो. So I'm not sure how many of you guys have read the book on clean code. So there's a very famous book on clean code. You can read that book. That book says that to write clean code, it doesn't mean that you have to write a lot of comments. Comments comment don't make a code clean. If you're writing a function, then a lot of time you should not need to write any comments to declare that, to define that function, until when it's a very complex function. The name of the function should identify what is the use case of that function. Are you able to get this point? Okay. I am adding comments because I'm teaching, right? In production level code, you don't just randomly add comments everywhere every time. I'm teaching so that it becomes self-explanatory, but your functions, your classes should be as self-explanatory as possible. You will add comments, but generally maybe to define something very complex. Comments don't make the code clean. Instead, better variable naming, better function naming, better class namings make the code clean. Okay. Okay, but it's a peer-to-peer calling. I would avoid multiple users. I'm avoiding mesh. So ADB, we are actually implementing multiple user-based peer-to-peer calling only. So you can like have a dedicated node server that we are also preparing. And what do we call it server as? SFU, right? We are kind of like preparing a selective forwarding unit. Okay, you can watch my last lecture to understand how exactly our node server is coming into the picture. Make sense? Has this not been added to Git? 1 second. Git status. Oh, there is a file left. Not sure how. Yeah. Okay. Also, I want to know what should be the ideal length of the function. It doesn't. There is no ideal length of the function. Every time you might have to. What do you say? Kind of like you need to make sure that one unit of task is done in one function. You cannot define the length of a function, but instead you can define that how much amount of code of a function is testable. You should write testable functions altogether. Okay. Oh, sorry. You can see we have exceeded some maximum length at a few places. So let's avoid that. Line number 7, line number 9. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's remove this comment from here. Okay. So I've added some linting logic. So let's respect that. Okay. And let's bring it up here. Then same thing we'll do here as well. And the same thing we'll do here as well. Okay, we should respect our linting logic. Let's do npm run dev. Line number 28. Oh, this one also. Save it. Okay, cool. Everything is up. Like the current coding implementation, I have not added any auth. Anybody can join the call. So you can add auth and everything. So again, there can be multiple things that you can add. But for now, this looks good to me. Everybody, is this point making sense till now? Whatever we have done till now? Is this point making sense to everyone? Any questions from anybody else? Okay. Now just think about it. Whenever a user joins a room, so now let's say that, let's say this is a room. This is a room. Okay. This room has some particular ID. Now, what will happen is multiple users are going to join this room. This is user number 1. This is user number 2. This is user number 3. This is user number. Can I say that? Akshit Saini is asking, are we using WebSocket? Yes, we are using WebSocket to prepare the selective forwarding unit. Guys, can I say that we are going to have multiple users that are going to join this room? Now, every user, we have to uniquely identify every user. Can I say that? So that we know who is sending the data and who is receiving the data. We need to uniquely identify every user, right? Yes or no? So let's do that particular part as well. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we'll come to the front end. We'll come to the socket provider here. Can you see? We are inside the socket provider. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is the moment a brand new, let's say, the moment a new socket connection has been prepared, the moment a brand new socket connection has been prepared, what we are going to do is we are going to set up a user. Okay. So we'll say state variable to store the user ID. Okay, let's prepare a state variable to store the user ID. User ID. Okay, I'll say const user comma set user is equals to use state. Make sense, everyone? And what will be the type of this user? What will be the type of this user? The type of this user is going to be of type peer. Okay, and where is this peer going to come from? Where is this peer going to come from? This peer is going to come from PeerJS. So I'll say import peer from PeerJS. Okay. Now we have not installed PeerJS inside our front end code. Can I say that? We have not installed PeerJS inside our front end code. So we should do that, right? So let's come up to the console. I'll say npm install PeerJS. Okay. And I will install, I guess UUID have already installed. Let's quickly check. Package.json. Did I install UUID? No. On the front end also, we need the UUID. Okay. So I'll also have UUID altogether. Let's wait for it to install. Okay. So you can see this PeerJS library we are installing on the front end because this is going to initiate a signaling connection with the PeerJS signaling server. I will also install the types for UUID. Okay. Cool. Let's come back here, save it. And you can see what we are doing is we are creating a new peer user. Okay. So every user that connects to the PeerJS server for signaling, we call it as a peer user. Make sense? Now, how do you create this peer user? It is very easy. When we are loading a brand new user, when we will load a brand new user, when we create a brand new connection, when we create a brand new socket connection, at that point of time, before we enter the room and do the rest of the logic, I can say const user ID is equals to, now we can import UUID. Okay. So let's say import v4 as UUID v4 from UUID. Okay. Same thing that we did on the backend. I'll say UUID v4. And then this user ID I'm going to pass inside my peer. So I'll say new peer is equals to new peer object. And this peer object expects a user ID. So I'll pass a user ID. Okay. And then I'll say set user as new peer. That's it. Now what I have done, let me explain. So can everybody understand? Can everybody understand that the moment this provider is loaded, a new socket connection is set up? Yes or no? The moment this provider is loaded, a new socket connection is set up. Can I say that? Say a yes or no in the chat, everyone. This socket provider is responsible for your front end to set up a socket connection. So the moment this socket provider is loaded, we create a brand new connection. If we create a brand new connection, that means we have a brand new user. So how about you create a brand new peer user? The moment you do new peer, it is going to help you to create a new peer object. And then we are going to use that peer object by making it as a state variable. You can see. And then I can pass that user inside my provider. Yes or no? And then this user will be accessible throughout our React project because I have accessed this socket provider throughout our app component altogether. Can I say that, everyone? Can I say that? Okay. Is this one making sense? That means inside the room component, remember, the moment anybody opens the room, we actually emit that, hey, a new user has joined the room. And now we have an entity of the user as well inside my context. So I can say I'll export the room ID. And apart from that, I'll export the peer ID as user.id. Okay, save it. So now from the front end, we are emitting the user. But should we just directly emit the user? No, we should check also that whether the user is present or not. If the user is present, then only we should emit the event. Okay. Cool. And on the backend, now I'm going to expect a peer ID as well. This peer ID is going to be of type. Peer ID is also going to be of type string. And I'll print the with peer ID as peer ID. Save it. Let's try it again. So let's turn up our server. Okay. Backend server is already up. Let's go to the front end. Okay. I'll go back. Close everything. Okay. Start a new meeting in a new room. You can see we have added a new room. We have been added in a new room. And on the backend side, can you see a new user has joined the room? This is the room number with peer ID. This is the user ID altogether. And now, if I just copy this link and paste it here, what will happen? The moment I press enter, a new socket connection has been set up. New socket connection means a new user who has joined the same room. So the log should say a new user connected. Can you see? But interestingly, we didn't get any log here. Why? Because on the front end, this use effect is only loaded once. At any point of time when the ID changes, then also we need to re-execute this effect. Can I say that? Let's try again now. We go back, refresh, start a new meeting room. You can see a new user has joined. This is the user ID. And if I copy this, paste it here, now go to the backend. Okay, once again, new user connected. So the user is being connected. We are not getting the logs. Let's quickly check why we are not getting the logs. The user ID we are passing. Okay, we are passing the user ID. And let's do one thing. Let's add some logs here. On the front end also we'll add some logs. Okay. Console.log new user with ID user._ID. This is from the peer object. Has joined room with ID. Save it. Okay. And let's see why we are not getting that. Refresh, inspect, console, clear, start new meeting. So you can see new user has joined. This is good. Copy, paste it here. Let's inspect console. Let's go to this page. Okay. Can you see we are not emitting any event? Can you see on this page we are not emitting any event? Adivi is saying, how do you put a limit on the number of users? You have to logically write a backend code that what is the room limit, and then you can create a mapping that in one room what all users are added, and that with that mapping you can check the number of users that are added in a room. If that is beyond the limit, then you do not allow any other user to add. So you can create a map on the backend already. Make sense, Adipi? Is this point making sense? Say yes or no in the chat. Okay, cool. Now let's see what is the problem here. We are bringing socket, we are bringing user. Okay, so I guess, can you see? This if check will only be executed if the user is present, right? So we should have a re-render on a user as well. Now, if I refresh, now you can see things are working. Yes. So let's close this. Now let's go back, refresh, start a new meeting. This is good. And inspect console. Press enter. And can you see a new user has been added to the same room? And on the back end, first of all, on the room AD22, this user got added. And then on AD22, this particular user got added. So multiple users are being added. One user is the creator of the room. Other people are just directly joining that particular room. Are you guys able to get this point? Say a yes or no in the chat, everyone. And these users are not normal users. These are PeerJS objects. Keep that thing in mind. Okay. Any questions from anyone? Any questions from anyone? Any questions, guys? Why we are doing these things? And can you see this is showing us a warning that socket object is also a dependency. So either add that as well. Okay. So you can see because this socket object can also change, right? Then also we need to have a re-render. So all of these three things we will add. Got it, guys? Make sense? Any questions from anyone? Okay. Now, guys, on the back end, we need to keep a track that what all users have been added to a particular room. Yes or no? We need to keep a track of that, right? Everybody say yes or no in the chat. On the back end, we need to keep a track of all those users who have actually joined the room. Okay. And don't you think just joined room function is the function that executes whenever a new user joins? Doesn't matter whether that user is a creator of the room or a new joinee of the room. This function gets executed. Can I say that? So we can say the below function is executed every time a user, creator or joinee, joins a new room. Can I say that? Okay. Make sense? So what we can do is we can create kind of like a mapping structure altogether. Yes or no? Let's do that. So here I'm going to create a new folder of, let's say, interfaces. Okay. Inside interfaces, let's create a brand new file. Okay. iroom params.ts. I'll say export default interface iroom params. Okay. And what will be the data of the interface? Room ID. It is of type string, and peer ID of type string. Okay. So I'm going to make a new interface iroom params. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the handler, and inside the handler, I'm going to prepare a mapping. So I'll say rooms. What will be the type of the rooms? It will be a record where the string will be a key and there will be an array of strings which will be the value. Make sense? And we will initialize this with a empty object altogether. So what is this? This rooms object is going to store the room ID, and corresponding to the room ID, what all users or peers have been added. Okay. The below map stores for a room what all peers have joined. Ideally, in an ideal scenario, guys, don't you think? Currently, I have kept this in memory. Currently, why not array of peers? You can see this is the array of peers. Okay, guys, ideally, this should be coming from the database. This should be coming from the database. But currently, I have just prepared a in-memory DB. Ideally, this should be all stored in your database altogether so that you can keep a track. Why name iRooms? Because this is going to be an interface. Again, just a convention. If you don't want to say iRooms params and just want to say room params, you can keep that. Okay. Now you can see this is a map, and what I'm going to do is this room ID and peer ID. Can you see? I was just parallelly putting a type here. I can now just say iRoom params. This code looks much more cleaner now. Can you see? This joined room function was getting an object of room ID and peer ID. I have mentioned that as a type of iRooms params. Got it? And now I will say that if rooms of the given room ID exist, when will this if check executed? This means that if the given room ID exists in the in-memory DB, okay, what we are going to do is, then we are going to console.log that a new user has joined, okay, and we'll say room of room ID dot push peer ID. This is rooms. This is rooms. Okay. What is this line doing? What is this line doing? The moment new user joins, add the peer ID to the key of room ID. Okay. So this rooms object, how is this going to look like? This is going to look like something like this. So there will be a room ID, let's say 1, and with that room ID, there will be user U1, U2, U3, U3. Then there will be a room ID 2. For that room ID 2, there will be U4, U5, U6, kind of like this. Okay. So the moment a brand new user joins, I'm going to add that in the corresponding key value pair. Yes or no? And just adding this in the in-memory DB is not enough. We need to make sure that socket connections joins that room as well. Make the user join the socket room. Yes or no, guys? Everyone? Okay. And when should be the room prepared? When should be the room prepared? This is where the room is prepared, right? So I should say the moment a room is prepared, we should say rooms of room ID is equals to a brand new array. Create a new entry for the room. Are you guys able to get this point? Yeah, yes or no in the chat? Okay. Cool. So the moment a brand new user joins a room, okay. So we'll say that let's emit one more event just for logging purpose. Below event is for logging purpose. Okay, what we will do is we'll say socket.emit get users. Okay, and what payload we are going to send? We'll send the room ID and we'll say participants as rooms of room ID. Make sense? Okay. So now just for logging purpose, the moment a brand new user joins a room, I'm going to emit an event from the backend that, hey client, if you want to check what all participants are in a user, you can check that from here. So now technically we should consume this on the client side. Can I say that? We should consume this event on the client side. Yes or no, everyone? Okay. So we are going to come up here. We are going to come up here inside the socket provider. And we are going to say, let's have a brand new function, or we should say socket.on get users. Okay, we are going to call a function fetch participant list. We are going to call a function fetch participant list. Okay, so let's have that method maybe somewhere here. Const fetch participant list. Okay, and what they're going to get is they're going to get a room ID and participants. What is the type? The type is going to be room ID is going to be of type of string, and participants is going to be an array of string. Can I say that? Okay. And let's close this. Cool. Okay. What we can do is console.log fetched room participants, console.log room ID comma participant. Save it. Let's see what happens. Let's go back, create a brand new room, refresh. Okay. You can see we created a room. If I have created a brand new room, can you see how many participants are there? There is only one participant. The moment I copy this, paste it here, inspect, go to console and press enter. Okay. Let's see. Can you see now this log is not coming up? Why this log might not be coming up? Anyone? Why this log might not be coming up? If you carefully see, we have added a log here that socket.on get users. We are going to fetch the participant list. Can I say that? Okay. But don't you think this log is not going to be always executed? Yes or no? Anybody can tell me how can we fix this? That the moment we fetch the participant, yes, dependency. What should we add in the dependency, guys? What should we add in the dependency? Anyone? Anyone? What should we add in the dependency, guys? It should be pretty simple. Just think about it. What should we add in the dependency? Or do we need to add anything in the dependency? First of all, you tell me. Do we need to add anything in the dependency? Or this should be directly accessible? Do we need to add something in the dependency? Can you see we are emitting an event get users? Okay, we are emitting an event get users. Okay, now let's do one thing. Let's come back here. And here, let's say instead of this, let's execute a simple callback. Console.log receive get user event. Save it. Okay. And let's refresh. Okay. Can you see this event has now not been executed? Like that callback is not getting executed. If I go back, create a new meeting also. Here it is executing because this is loading. But the moment we directly come up here, can you see this event is not loading up? What is missing, guys? You have to figure this out. What is missing? Anyone? Guys, this logic we are currently adding in the socket provider. Either in the socket provider, we have to add the dependency that the moment user changes, then we should re-render this particular provider, and then this socket.on will be executed. Can I say that we need to add that as a dependency? Or in the room we have already have that as a dependency, right? In the room we already have that as a dependency. So how about we move all of this logic inside the room? We move all of this logic inside the room altogether. Cut, paste here. So we should say this one. Okay. And let's say we call fetch participant list. Fetch participant list. Are you guys able to get this point? What I have done here? Are you guys able to get this point? What I've done here? Let's try it out. Let's try it out and see what happens. Let's go back, or let's go back, refresh. Okay. Let's go back, start a new meeting, copy, paste, presenter. Can you see this is still not coming up? Can you see this is still not coming up? भाई सी लैंग्वेज करूं या नहीं? कर सकते हो अगर कॉलेज के करिकुलम में तो होगी, वरना C++ कर लोगे तो डायरेक्टली बेटर रहेगा. ठीक है. Coming back, guys, can you see this is still not working? Here do we have our users. So on socket.on, this should technically fetch the participant list, right? What might not be working now? Anyone? And if you see, We are emitting the event. Socket.emit. Can you see? This event is emitting. Should we take a look on the backend side? Should we take a look on the backend side? What's happening in the backend side, everyone? Okay. So can you see it is printing console.log, new user has joined the room. Can you see that log is not coming up, everyone? Can you guys see that log that is not coming up? If I show you again, let's go back, refresh. Sorry, go back, refresh, start a new meeting. This new meeting has joined. New user has joined the room. Looks good. Okay. If I copy this, paste it here, press enter. And can you see the log is not coming up on the backend? That means this if check is not executing. Are you guys able to get this point? Are you guys able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat. This if check is not executing. So it doesn't matter whether you have the fetch participant logic in the room.tsx or in socket provider context, anywhere. Sorry. Anywhere you have that logic, the problem is from the backend, we are not able to receive the event. From the backend, we are not able. You can put this fetch participant logic in the room context, room.tsx also. You can put it here in the socket context also. But the problem is the backend is not emitting the event. Now, why backend might not be emitting the event? Let's see. Is this function getting executed? So if you do console.log, joined room call. If you save it, go back, refresh, copy. You can see joined room called for the creator. That is good. But when a joinee comes up, oh, my bad. Let's copy this, paste it here. Can you see when the joinee comes up, joined room is still getting called, but it is not able to get rooms of room ID. Are you able to get this point? So let's print the rooms. Let's print the rooms. Let's see what are the rooms we are getting. Okay. So let's go back. Let's refresh and let's turn up both the servers so that we have a fresh new rooms array. Okay, let's turn up both the servers or restart both the servers. Just a second. Okay. So now if you refresh, okay, start a new meeting. If you go back, can you see this is the new room that has been created? And can you see this array is empty? Can you see that? Okay. Why this array is empty? Because this is the first time we are making this log, right? This is the first time we are making this log. So technically we should log this here as well. That added peer to room, and then let's print the room. Okay, save it. Now again, let's go back, refresh, click here. And can you see added peer to room? So can you see in this room, which was created here, the creator peer has been added. No problem at all. Make sense, guys? The creator peer has been added. Okay. Now, the moment I copy this and paste it here and refresh, let's see what are the logs coming up. Can you see joined room called, but this object is empty. This object is empty. Can I see that? Joined room is getting called, but this object is empty, guys. This room's object is coming empty. This room's object is coming empty. Yes or no? That is the problem. That when this joined room is coming up, this room's object is coming all together empty. Can anybody tell me why is that? Why that might be happening? Anyone? Why that might be happening? From the front end, if you see, you emit an event joined room where you pass room ID, peer ID, everything. Okay. Here, you receive the room ID, peer ID, and everything. But this rooms is coming empty. You can even check. Are you receiving the room ID and peer ID or not? Room ID, peer ID, that is receiving, that you are going to receive. Okay. If you refresh, can you see room ID and peer ID you're receiving? But this rooms object is the problematic scenario. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's close this. Refresh. Start a new meeting. Okay. Can you see this rooms object has been created? It has one entry. It has one entry altogether. Okay. Cool. Now, if I copy this, paste it here, press enter. See, again the same problem. Room is coming empty. Anybody can tell me why the room is coming empty? This is a very small issue. Why the room is coming empty, guys? Very small issue. And okay, let me tell you, the issue exists in line number 11. The issue exists in line number 11. Can you guys detect why rooms is coming empty? Small issue in line number 11. Guys, this rooms variable is a local variable of the room handler function. Room handler function gets executed for every socket connection. Scope of this variable is locally. All you have to do is make the scope of this variable global. Remember, I mentioned that this should be coming from the DB. This should be coming from the DB so that you have access of it everywhere. And because this was having a local scope, for every socket connection, it was creating a new room. And now, if you just go back, refresh, inspect. Now, start a new meeting. Can you see? New room has been created. No problem. The moment I copy this and console, paste it here. Can you see? Now we are getting both the room participant. There are two participants in the room. And can you see on the back end? In this room, we have two participants. If I open this in one more tab, inspect, console, and press enter here. Can you see now we have three participants and you will be able to see all three participants here. So now people are joining the room and we are able to store the record of them joining a particular room. Can I say that? Can I say that, guys? Say yes or no in the chat, everyone. Okay. So I'll commit up till here. Git add all. Room creation logic with user joining the room and their record of joining being stored. Added. Okay. And I will commit on the front end as well. Here we go. I'm giving consistent messages, Git messages are across server and client. Looks good. Make sense, everyone? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions from anyone? Okay. Nobody has any questions? What if the user closes the tab? No. So Aman has a fair question, and maybe this is something that you guys can pick as a homework kind of a thing. That if the user closes the tab, that means a user disconnects, right? If the user disconnects, then we can make the user leave the room. How can we make the user leave the room? From the room's record, we can delete the entry of the user. Are you guys able to get this point? So maybe that is something that you guys can pick up as a kind of like a homework thing. Make sense, everyone? Guys, if the user will close the tab, then technically we should remove the user from the corresponding, I should say, room, right? Okay, cool. So maybe you guys can take up that feature. Just make a PR. I'll review it. No problem there. I believe this should be a fairly simple what filter call. You know JavaScript filters, right? It's just a JavaScript array. You can just filter that all together from there. Okay, cool. Now let's do one thing. Let's add one more feature. Now let's try to record the feed of the user. Feed of the user means let's try to use the webcam of the user to record the feed. Are you able to get this point? Okay. So on the front end, what we can do is in the component, I'll create let's say a new file and I'll call it as user feed player .tsx. Okay, user feed player const user feed player is equals to react dot functional component, right? Once again, colon react dot functional component. Okay, we are going to, let's say, put on a fragment and I'll say export default user feed player. User feed player. Okay. Cool. Now, how this user feed player is going to work, let's talk about that. So here we should have a video component or video tag. Okay, we should have a video tag altogether. Inside this video tag, what we are going to do is we are going to collect the user data in the form of a stream and put the chunks of that stream inside this video tag. Are you able to get this point? Say yes or no in the chat, everyone. Okay. So what we are going to do is inside this component, inside the HTML सीख ली, गूगल में जॉब कैसे मिलेगी? अरे HTML सीखने के बाद भी कॉल नहीं है खुद से, क्या बात है? सुंदर पिचाई को मेल लिखो, वो लगवाएगा तुम्हारा इंटरव्यू. ठीक है, आ जानी चाहिए थी कॉल तो अब तक. नॉट श्योर, कुछ कहीं नोटिस नहीं हुए होगे. एक बार मेल लिख दो सुंदर पिचाई को कि HTML सीख लिए. इंटरव्यू भी नहीं लगेगा भाई. HTML सीखने के बाद इंटरव्यू थोड़ी लगता है. HTML सीख लेने के बाद इंटरव्यू थोड़ी लगता है भाई. ना 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 अरे CSS नहीं मांगते भाई, खाली HTML से हो जाता है आजकल. तुम्हें नहीं पता? तुम्हें क्या पता है ना? इंटरव्यू भी लेंगे शायद, सीधा HR राउंड होगा, सीधा पैसे डिस्कस होंगे भाई. टेंशन नॉट. करो करो, मेल करो एक बारी. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स कम बैक. Okay, now what we are going to do is in the user feed player, we are going to expect what? We are going to expect that this user feed player is going to get a stream altogether. Are you able to get this point? We are going to get a stream, but where we will get the stream from? Where we will get the stream from? So inside the socket context, what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a stream variable. So I'll say stream comma set stream is equals to, and we are going to have a use state. Okay, cool. What will the type of this state? The type of this state is going to be media stream. Are you able to get this point? The type of this state is going to be media stream. Yes or no, everyone? Okay, so we can say media stream. And where we will get this media stream from? So let me write a function const fetch user feed. Okay, fetch user feed. Now there is a DOM API. And let's make it a async function. Okay, so what is that DOM API called? Well, we can do await navigator dot, there is something called as media devices. Media devices means whatever are the media devices accessible to the browser. Dot get user media, and we will say video to true, audio to true. Right? This is not a React thing, guys. This is not a React thing. This is a dedicated browser API altogether. Are you able to get this point? Make sense? This is a browser API altogether. For example, if I just execute this particular code in the browser, if I go inspect, paste, press enter, Can you see it's a browser API? If there's a pending promise, when it fulfills, it will access the media stream altogether. Okay. So this is going to give us the corresponding stream. Const stream is equals to this. And then what we can do is we can do set stream. Set stream as. Okay, this is a very simple code that is going to help us to initialize the webcam and start collecting the feed from here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll call this function maybe here. Fetch user. Make sense, everyone? Is this point making sense? Okay, and what we are going to do is inside my provider, I'm going to also use the stream object so that this stream that we are collecting from the user webcam, I can use it throughout my React project altogether. Okay, this is a fairly simple thing. Cool. Coming back. Now we have a video player here. We have a video player here. So what I can do is I can prepare a React ref. Video ref, right, is equals to use ref. So there is a hook called as use ref. And what will be the type of the ref? It will be HTML video element, because we are going to use this ref on a video tag. So what will be the type? HTML video element altogether. Initially null. Okay. And then what I can do is I can say inside this video tag, ref is equals to video ref. Okay. I'll also style this. Let's say we can say that width is 300 pixels. Height is 200 pixels maybe. I'm just giving a random styling altogether. Okay. I'll keep it muted. I'll keep it muted so that it doesn't start echoing my voice, because I'm speaking from the speaker. It will come out and like things will start echoing. So I'll keep initially it muted. And I'll keep it autoplay. I'll keep the autoplay on. Okay. Save it. Now, what we are going to do is inside this video ref value, in the video ref value, what we are going to do is we are going to attach the stream object. How can we do that? So we can say that whenever सर ये टाइप्स कैसे याद रहेंगे? जस्ट गूगल इट अभिषेक, गूगल कर लो, प्रैक्टिस भी नहीं, मैं तो कहूंगा गूगल ही कर लो, कोई दिक्कत की बात नहीं. ठीक है. नाउ what we are going to do is we are going to expect a stream object inside the props. What will be the type? Media stream. Remember, it was the same type here. Media stream. So media stream. And then we can say that let's have a use effect. Okay, let's have a use effect. At any point of time, the stream changes. When anytime stream changes, and let's import use ref also. It's throwing an error for us. Let's import use ref. We will say if video ref dot current exists and stream also exists, what we are going to do is we are going to say video ref dot current dot value is equals to stream. And sorry, not value. I guess this should be source object. Source object is equals to the corresponding stream. Okay. Let's see why this is throwing us an error. Oh, my bad. So let's declare the prop also. Stream of type stream media stream. Make sense? Copy. Next. Looks good. Make sense, guys? प्रणव पाटिल, कोडिंग सीखूं क्या? मत सीख भाई, ऑलरेडी बहुत लोग सीख रहे हैं. Make sense, guys? What's happening? So we have a video tag in the source. Now every time when you play a video, what do? In the source tag, you just put the video URL. So the moment we are going to receive the stream prop, we are going to feed that stream in the source object of the video ref. Are you able to get this point? Let's see why this is crying. Okay, we can do something like this. I guess we can say this is a React functional component, which is going to expect something like this. Okay, let's restructure a bit. Let's restructure this a bit. Okay, and then let's restructure this a bit once again. We can say React dot functional component, and we can define the type of the functional component as this. So we'll say stream. Okay, it will be having a stream, optional stream. It will be having, let's say, of type media stream. Media stream. Okay, simple. It's a simple TypeScript thing. Okay, so you can see now I've defined the React functional component to be of this particular type. Got it? Is equals to, now you can have a stream in there. Save it. And now you can see no errors coming up. So now you have defined that, okay, this functional component is going to expect a corresponding stream. Okay. Now you might be thinking, who will pass this stream? Who will pass this stream? Right? The room is going to pass this stream, because inside my room, below the room ID, I'm going to say user feed player, and the stream is going to come from our context. Stream is going to come from our context. Save it. The moment you go back and let's refresh and let's do one thing. Let's reset all permissions. Let's reload. Okay. I'm going to allow this, and probably it's taking a different camera for mine. Let's check. Okay. So it's coming up. It's probably taking a different camera for me. Okay. Site settings, camera. Okay. You can see it's taking a different camera. I have this camera. Okay. Let's reset permissions, refresh. Oh, okay. Can you see? My feed is actually coming up now. Can you see, guys? And again, let me walk you through what all changes we did. We created a user feed player component. That component takes a stream object. Where is the stream object coming from? Inside the room component, I'm using the user feed player component and passing the stream here. And who is giving the room component the stream? It's coming from the context. Who is giving context the stream? Inside the context, I use the browser API of navigator.mediadevices to access the stream, set it as a straight variable, and then pass it here in the context. And inside the user feed player, we receive that stream as a prop. Then I need to, the moment this stream changes, because this is a chunk, how, like, just read about Node.js streams if you have not done yet. So whenever you collect a stream, it gets the data in chunk by chunk form. So whenever the chunk changes, what we are going to do, we need to change what is being rendered on the video tag. So on the video tag, we are going to attach a video ref of type HTML video element. And this type of ref has a source object property altogether. It's similar to attaching a source value to your video tag as a stream. And that's it. And you can see we are able to access my user feed altogether. Make sense, guys? So I'll commit all of this. I don't think we have a change on the backend. Backend is all good. On the front end, added user feed. There we go. Make sense, guys? एक वेबसाइट पे काम कर रहा हूँ, उसको प्रमोट कर दो कि स्टूडेंट हूँ, पैसे नहीं है, इसलिए आपका सब्सक्राइबर वेबसाइट नेक्स्ट पे बना रहा हूँ, भेजो, सेंड मी द लिंक. Repo link, Aditya, I've already shared the repo link in the chat earlier, but I can share you again. These are the two repos. Copy. Max live quality 720p क्यों है? I'm not sure यार. चेक कर लूंगा लाइव के बाद कि क्या प्रॉब्लम है. Manjeet, we are using mainly socket to set up the selective forwarding unit, and You can say more or less TypeScript, basic Express on the back end, React on the front end. That's it. अभी तो काम चल रहा है उस प्रोजेक्ट पे, टाइम लगेगा. ठीक है, जब बन जाए तो भेज देना, किसी लाइव स्ट्रीम में आना, भेज देना, चेक कर लेंगे. Got it? नहीं गुरवीर, OBS यूज नहीं कर रहा हूँ. I'm directly streaming using StreamYard. Okay. Okay, cool. Everyone, till now, is this point making sense? Whatever we have coded as of now, is this all making sense, guys? So what we have done is we have prepared our selective forwarding unit backend, and we are able to connect the front end from that backend. In one room, we are able to connect multiple users, and we are also able to get the user's video camera feed on the front end. Now, what is left? What is left? We are left with just one task. That now inside this room, what we have to do is we have to take the user's stream data and pass it to my selective forwarding unit, the backend SFU. And the moment SFU collects it, I need to pass it on to the other users and do the same thing from the other users as well. Other users are also going to give their stream, and their stream is going to be passed on to the remaining set of users. Are you able to get this point? So this part, like sharing of the stream data, we have to implement. Getting my point, guys? I try to make sure that we add as many comments as possible, explain most of the things as possible, and try to keep the code as clean as possible. There is still scope of code cleanliness. For example, all of these events, I've just hard-coded as them as a string. Technically, I should have a constants file there to manage most of the things. Then these functions can be segregated in their own implementable, I would say, separate files altogether, maybe. So, of course, more cleaning we can do, but I believe still the code looks very manageable and very clean altogether. Okay. Any questions as of now, guys? Any questions as of now? Okay. Now, before we wrap, I'm going to do one last thing. I guess we need one more lecture to complete this. But before we wrap, I'm going to do one last thing. Can you see we are creating a new peer object, but nowhere I'm connecting to my PeerJS server. Can you see on the PeerJS server, nothing has been connected. Make sense? Okay. So what you can do is, oh my bad, npm run dev. Okay. npm run dev. Okay. Now on the front end, when you're creating a new peer object, what you can do is you can pass the configuration of what PeerJS server you want to connect. If you want to connect on a local server, you can say host as localhost, because we have a local host on the local host, or I would say on my local machine, a PeerJS server is running. What is the port of the server? What is the port of the server? Port of the server is 9000. 9000. Okay. And what is the path? Path is /my app. How do I know what is the path? The path is already written here. Can I say that? Okay. And the moment I come back here and refresh, can you see a brand new client has been connected to the PeerJS server? No, Manjeet, I guess we are already done 2 hours. So it's already too much for a lot of people. So one more class will need. Okay. Can you guys see? We have connected the client on the PeerJS server. Can I say that? And this is the local PeerJS server that I'm running. Yes or no, guys? Okay. The moment you refresh again, you can see it says this client has disconnected and new client has been connected. Okay. So now our clients are also connecting to the PeerJS servers. Make sense? Every client that will connect from PeerJS server, it will act as a signaling server for them. Okay. So the only change that you have to do is just use this. If you will not pass this object, then it is going to use the deployed, like there is a, I would say, public PeerJS server as well, but that doesn't work very well. Like they don't have a lot of support for that. Most of the time it doesn't work. So better thing is have your own local PeerJS server and later deploy it yourself or on your own hosting as well. Okay. So this small commit I'll add. That connected client with local PeerJS server. There we go. Make sense? Okay. Will that be tomorrow? Not tomorrow. I'm planning it on Friday maybe. Let's maybe do it on Friday or weekend. Okay. Make sense, guys? So we have our app in a good shape. And I believe that in one more class, the only thing left is in the same socket room that we have prepared, we can start relaying the data of the streams. And that should be it. Okay. So we'll do that in the next lecture altogether. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Just a quick note at the very end that we have a bunch of courses on Algocamp that we have turned up live. For example, there is a already running course on Spring Boot. In case you are interested in learning Spring Boot in very much in depth, you can check it out. We are making a Uber backend API where we are going to play with kind of like geospatial data and a lot of microservices altogether. End to end, we are making in Spring Boot. There's a brand new Merge Stack course has been launched as well, which is an advanced full stack development course, right? So if you, in case you were not able to join the previous advanced front end and advanced backend bootcamp, then this can be your new chance to actually join that. The content is going to stay more or less same for the advanced front end and advanced backend. It's just that now things are going to be more connected. The projects have the same front end, the same backend, and I'll drop more details about the cohort probably this week or next week early, where I'll talk about the in-depth syllabus of the cohort. Do check it out. I believe this is going to be useful for a lot of people. Sure, Manjeet. I'll put a what do you say? Community post. Okay, then we can do it. Before we close, anybody having any last minute questions? Any last minute questions, anyone? The Merge Stack cohort is yet to start. In the Spring Boot cohort, we are halfway through, but all the live lectures are available. I will be launching Spring Boot 2.0 soon. Sure, Rahul. I've already pinged the team to check your email. After the live stream, I'll check it myself. Anybody having any question? Any general random question also? Just last 5 minutes we have. Any thought about Go and Rust? I believe they are going to be the next big thing, just like how in the previous few years JavaScript and everything have become. So Go definitely has a good future. I've seen a lot of companies starting migrating to Go. For example, the last hiring season, I again interviewed for Coinbase. If you remember, on my channel, there is already a Coinbase interview. That was last year, I guess, or probably last year. But in the last year hiring season, when I shifted to Microsoft, I again interviewed for Coinbase. And I was talking to the engineering manager of Coinbase. I got selected. So they were talking that most of the things in Coinbase, they have migrated to Go. That was an interesting thing. Apart from that, I have a few friends in GeoCinema. Nowadays, IPL streaming and everything is happening in GeoCinema. They have their backend in Go. Pretty interesting stuff. And more startups and more companies I know where they have started migrating their older code base to Go and everything. Right. So Go definitely has got some potential. What technologies you know? I have worked with a lot of technologies. Like for example, currently in Microsoft, I'm working with C# based backend. Prior to that, in Google, I've worked with Java based backend, Flutter front end. In Microsoft, we have the front end in React. Prior to that, I worked in LinkedIn. I worked on Ember.js front end and Java backend. Prior to that, at Scalar, I worked on Rails backend and React front end. Depends. Where are you working? Abhishek, stun server and everything, with stun server to connect and everything is already configured in PeerJS. If you want to connect to your custom stun server, you can do that. Next.js full stack website बनाना है, host करना हो तो कैसे करेंगे? Vercel पे host कर सकते हो. You can host it on Vercel. Vercel has a very good support. This is the question. Vercel has got a very good support for hosting Next.js apps. कितने पैसे लगेंगे? I don't have the costing idea, to be very honest. Much. Frontend 2.0 will be coming around in May end. I'll be launching it in May end. The Frontend 2.0 course will be launching in May end. Okay. Cool. That being said, let's wrap today's session here, guys. We are going to meet soon, probably this week only, and we will complete the app. That will be the 4th lecture. I thought today we'll wrap it up, but I believe explanation takes time. Till then, take care, guys. Bye-bye. Have a really lovely week ahead. Do check out the courses on Algocamp. I believe we have launched some really interesting courses with some really interesting projects altogether. Do check it out. We'll meet soon in the next session. Till then, take care, guys. Bye-bye. Have a really good week ahead, and keep coding. When should you prefer Angular, Respective, or React? When your company asks you to do that, until unless React has most of the things good to go. So yeah. Bye guys. Bye everyone.